can't imagine.
Good afternoon, everybody, or almost afternoon. A few minutes. If we could get settled in so that we can give our attention to these next wonderful panelists, I would really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Margaret Riley Schweizer. I'm the potty mouth on the hot mic. Apologies, apologies, apologies. Life of a solo practitioner when you get called into court and it wasn't on your calendar and you're scrambling because you're also doing a program. So that's the real life of managing all that we have to manage as solo practitioners and business owners. I just wanted to take a second to thank you everybody for coming. I'll be moderating this panel. I also wanted to take a moment to introduce Ms. Lativia Pretty, who is the Vice President of the Leadership Academy at GAWL. For those of you who don't know, all proceeds from today's CLE will go directly to help fund the Leadership Academy, and I wanted to give Ms. Pretty a chance to talk about that.
Well, I'm so glad to see all of you here today. Super grateful that you were able to come and participate in this program. I did want to say that, yes, the proceeds will be going to the Leadership Academy, which is one of GAWL's signature training programs for women attorneys. If you are someone who's been practicing for 5 years or more, this program is for you. It is a transformational program. It's going to be intentional about developing and building up women leaders, not only for your jobs, but not only for your careers, but also for the community at large. So I would love for you guys to be on the lookout. Hopefully our application should be going live around June or July of this summer. And so we're looking forward to having a really great class, and we have been working hard to get you some amazing speakers. So the lineup is going to be amazing. And so we would just love for you all to come out and be a part of that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Without further ado, we'll get started on this panel. So we have some amazing presenters today with us for this second panel, which we're talking about growing and scaling the business, right? We're thinking about this as that middle life cycle of a solo and small firm practice, and we have some amazing, very talented and knowledgeable panelists to help us kind of think through this. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, if that's okay. You guys have incredible bios, and it's way too long for me to say, so I'm going to just have our lovely friend Baleen Reed start first.
Hi everyone, my name is Baleen Reed. If that's a struggle, it's like Bailey with an N. I am an associate attorney at Barnhart Family Law. My boss and partner, Christy, launched her firm May of 2023 and somehow decided to take an attorney when she opened her doors. So I have the benefit of knowing what it is like to start a business from the first day without a lot of the other panics that we were talking about. So I have a good perspective on that without the financial stress. So I have a different perspective to bring to the panel. Went to Emory. I really enjoy litigation. I teach trial techniques there every summer. And I am here because I am a networking guru. I just keep showing up to stuff, and eventually people will send you business. So get your name out there and, participate in GAWL if you have the time.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jen Gore, and I started my own firm, which was at the time called Atlanta Personal Injury Law Group, the day I got my license, which was probably 13, 14 years ago. And I had that firm for 13 years. And I sold that firm last year to a law firm named Sweet James. You might see us around Atlanta. It's the third largest personal injury firm in America. And just this week ago, I sold the rest of my shares and I exited fully selling my entire firm to Sweet James. In the last, years, I had about 40 employees, 35 to 40 employees when I sold Atlanta Personal Injury, the first section. And, Sweet James has over 500 employees, nationally. So it's a pretty large firm. So I feel like I have a really unique perspective, being in firms of all sizes from the first day I started my firm in my spare bedroom to as big as it got under my, ownership, and then through the sale as being a partner in Sweet James. Simultaneously, I have had a consulting business where I coach law firm owners around the country for the last 2 to 3 years, and that's what I'm going to be doing full time now. And that's really like a passion of mine and something I just love to do.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karina de la Cruz. I am the founder and CEO of Horizon Legal Solutions and Horizon Premier Staffing. Horizon Legal is an interpreting and translation company. We're turning 20 in April. And Horizon Premier Staffing came as a result of Horizon Legal Solution. We provide bilingual virtual assistants. And I was able to take a business from $14,000 my first year to a multi-million-dollar company. So I'm really excited to share some of my expertise with you guys because I'm very passionate about helping small business owners. I now have 27 employees. Almost half of that is in virtual assistants, and it's just one of those small little secrets that I like to share. But I'm happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Well, let's get into it. Jen, your comment about your spare bedroom hit true to me because I have about 2 feet of space to the left of my actual bed where I run my operation from. So question for all of you is, I think maybe something that I'm currently struggling with as a solo practitioner is, when am I ready to go beyond just me? How do I know when it's time to hire? Karina, maybe we'll start with you and kind of go this way.
So when you're exceeding your capacity, you're working long hours, and you still, I remember I was working till 1 a.m. one time, and I'm like, what am I doing this? I, opened up my own business to get freedom, and I'm a slave. So when you're exceeding your capacity, when you're sacrificing quality, when you see it's like you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make a mistake if you keep trying to do everything yourself. So and also having, I think, clarity of your cash flow. It's like, okay, I think I can do this. Have an idea of what you're generating per month, and then you can pull the plug.
A fun exercise I did a long time ago was you wear different hats throughout the day. And as a business owner, you wear the hats of the marketer, the networker, the person that produces the work, the secretary, the receptionist. You're wearing all these different hats. And the goal for you when you have a business is to be spending the most of your time doing the highest value things. So there are certain things that make you maybe $500 an hour. There are certain things that you're doing that are making you $10 an hour. If you're licking your own envelopes and being your own secretary and you have a law degree, you are flushing money down the toilet. So you need to really think about how you can move yourself into high revenue generating activities, whether that be bringing in business or doing things that require a law degree. And you want to get away from immediately doing low value tasks that could really be done by somebody that you pay $15 to $20 an hour.
I mean, Jen's answer is the answer, bottom line, right? Is that if you're, for example, associated firm, for the first year's firm, I was answering the phone. Okay, I now bill $375 an hour. It's not a good use of my time to, instead of be prepping for trial, to be answering the phone and scheduling consultations. That's a lot of free time I spent every day. When you first start, you don't know. You're worried about cash flow, you're worried about capital, you're worried about hiring too many people and not be able to pay salaries. Think about hiring part-time, but there is a point where you are exceeding your capacity and you're doing it for minimal returns. Your ROI is in the negative. You're in the hole spending your time doing that. So think about how far your dollars are. Something that we did was, okay, well, we really want an admin person. We want someone to schedule, we want someone to answer the phones. How many hours do we need to bill more a month to make paying them worth it, right? And if that's 10 hours, okay, well, I can do that. We can do that in a week, right? We both had 5 hours. So what do you need to do with the money that you can make to afford this person that's going to free up your time? Just make sure that you have the business and the marketing to fill that gap.
And I would add one more thing. It is scary to hire, like you just said and you said, but even give yourself the permission to hire someone part-time. Like I have made so many hires where I go, I can find someone that can do 15 hours a week of answering the phone, and that just buys you a little freedom. Like you don't have to commit if you're completely afraid to do a full-time team member. That sometimes is a little overwhelming. Or you can do virtual, and you can buy yourself freedom as you can kind of scale it up. Even start. I literally hired my first employee within the first 2 months, but she was part-time.
Let's talk about what makes that first hire successful, right? And with intention. So, Baleen, maybe I'll start with you. As the first associate in a growing firm, what did you see that made your first successful hire successful? What did you and your partner do on the front end to set that person up for success so that you're actually getting the most value out of the amount of money that you pay her or him.
Yeah. I will first give some clarity. I was her first hire, huge risk. If you're not hiring someone who's hungry, that's going to bring in business, that will be a lawyer and answer the phone and network, don't do it, right? You need to hire someone that's going to do your admin stuff. First, Christy took a risk that hopefully is paying off, but it's a dangerous thing to start your firm and hire a lawyer. Next, you're already a lawyer. You need someone to help you do the admin assistant stuff. I, like many firms, our first few hires were just like a litany of failures. Hate to say it. Sometimes it just happens. We kept trying to find a good remote paralegal. We didn't have enough paralegal work to do it full time, but they just kept not being a good fit. They wanted more work or too little work, and eventually we found someone that was a good fit. So like Jen said, be open to trying people. Be open to a 90-day period of time. Be open to, I have for sure 10 hours of work for you this week. So the clearer you can be in that hire, the better. But my advice is going to be hire some sort of admin assistant first. You need to get that off your plate pretty early.
Go ahead. I wanted to touch base with Karina to get her perspective as on behalf of the staffing agency, right? What do you advise solo practitioners to have ready and ready to go before hiring?
So one thing my business coach always tells me is expectations, expectations, expectations. You've got to be able to communicate what your expectations are. Be clear from the beginning so that you can avoid chaos later. And having clear process, and if, be honest with your first hire. Say, hey, you're my first hire. Are you willing to work with me? My first hire was my sister. It's a long story, but she really did help me grow, and basically you got to tell them you're going to wear many hats. Tell them your expectations and have, I think the first panel really covered it really well on having written processes, be clear about it. I know that it's a headache because, you've got to do the legal work, but spend the time getting organized because that way your first hire is not chaos. It's you'll succeed if you have, systems in place.
Okay. Jen, anything you wanted to add to that one?
Yeah, I feel like both of them shared very valid points of in the beginning, the first hire is kind of a jack of all trades type of person. And it's somebody who's kind of multidimensional. They can do many different things. They're very adaptable. You do not want a really rigid person like that. I don't do this, It's I need you to do a little of whatever can take things off my plate in the beginning, and documenting your processes. I think the biggest challenge for employees as you scale up is oftentimes the people you need in the beginning of the firm are not the people you need later. You need specialists later, but in the beginning you need really multidimensional people, and everyone wants to know how to win at their job. And I think it's a really big talent to be a leader that helps people understand how to win at their job. And in the beginning, when I first had my company, I was not great at that, and it's a skill set. You need to give people KPIs and metrics and reassurance of how they are going to win at their job. And that is a skill that comes with time and experience.
Well, let's talk about those growing pains, right? Of starting out, you're in a position, you want to start to hire, you want to start to scale. What do you see from your perspective as a new associate in a firm, Baleen, about those growing pains and how to be intentional when you address them?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, once again, you have your systems. Where do you have the gap? Look for the holes in your business model. When you go through your day, what do you say? I spent 3 hours doing this and it made me $0. Be really intentional about what's going to propel you forward with your time, and be also intentional with what you can delegate. I can't just go hire people, right? Chrissy's going to be the one to hire people and do interviewing. I'm not going to be the one talking to the banker or dealing with the trust account. So also know that you can delegate whatever you're hiring and you can trust someone else to do it. If it's due intake and you have your systems, that's an easy thing to get off your plate. Something I see not just with our firm and family law attorneys, there's a lot of control issues. Once you've made this business baby and you're going to say here's this task that I've done myself for a year, 3 years, 3 months, you do it. And my expectation is for you to do it just as well as I do. Okay, well, they're probably not going to. They're not you. They just need to do it good enough that you still get the clients and you can use that time more valuably. So just be intentional with what you can delegate and how it's going to save you time.
Anyone want to add?
I think, building on what she said, as a business owner, is that trust issue. It's, trusting that someone's going to do it right because it's your baby. I always say my company is my second child because it's truly your baby. So that trust, you've got to learn how to delegate and trust. And sometimes mistakes are going to happen. And I remember at the beginning, I'm like, no room for mistakes. But when you hire someone, you've got to be open that mistakes will happen. And what I do now, before, I used to lose it. I was like, I get angry, yell. Now I'm like, you know what? What can we learn from this? Let's take this as a lesson. Let's sit down and brainstorm. How can we prevent this from happening again? So, just be open-minded and know that sometimes mistakes are going to happen.
So you asked like what mistakes in scaling, just kind of.
Yeah, what are the pain points? How do you identify them? And how can we encourage those listening to approach those solutions in an intentional way rather than a reactionary way?
Because we have like so many women in the room, and I think you guys have covered some really valid points, I kind of want to go in a different direction.
Please.
And one of the biggest things that helped me scale my business, and it was a major pain point for me, was getting a lot of the domestic chores in my house off my plate. We hear that?
Yeah.
So I go around the country now telling women, I give you permission today to hire a housekeeper. If you are a lawyer and you can make $300 to $500 an hour, there's no reason you should ever clean your own house again. You should have an executive assistant. Honestly, when I'm in rooms, a lot of times I'm the only woman in a space where there's a ton of men that are very successful, and I find that typically they have a stay-at-home wife or somebody that's doing a lot of things for them that allows them to manage and use their time in ways that typically women don't. And so a big part of my mission is to tell women, like, you should hire an executive assistant very quickly, even a part-time one, 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week. You should have some type of personal assistant. If you're doing returns to Target when you could be billing out $300 to $500 an hour, you're flushing money down the toilet and setting yourself back behind years of your colleagues. So intentionality with your time and spending time, really, to do deep work. You can't be also like doing laundry and I just think that most women are managing an entire household, are the CEO of their home and trying to be the CEO of their company, and it's almost near to impossible, and it burns you out. And if you're spending all weekend long, catching up on your domestic chores, it's very hard to scale a multi-million-dollar company.
And you know what, to add real quick, sorry, that should be your first hire. Like, I agree with her. That should totally be your first hire. Yeah.
Heard that. Okay. Well, Jennifer, this is one I want to go back to you because I think your personal story has done this so well. As your brand grows and as the volume increases, how do you maintain consistency within what your firm has always done and will do, your values, like we heard in the first session? How do you maintain that level while opening up the floodgates to the volume?
Are you talking about your personal brand, or are you talking about the law firm brand?
Well, I think that's a really important question. I was talking law firm brand, but I think you've done a pretty good job of making your brand, and I would love to hear more about that too.
Yeah, so just my personal belief is that we all are a brand. So you're a brand, all of us here, we're all brands, and you then have a law firm brand or a business brand if you guys own a business. And those are really two separate things. And I think you should put intentionality behind both and have brand consistency behind both. So when you build a brand, you design, what is the brand stand for? What is the brand, values? And each one of those are different. So if you have a law firm, you have values for that, and you have a brand, and you have a style guide, and it should be very consistent because great brands are very consistent. It means you're posting consistently, the message is consistent, and you've thought through what the brand is. I think it's more fun to have a personal brand because if you follow people, look at Elon Musk versus Tesla. People are more interested in the person. And so a lot of people out there want to follow you as a lawyer or you as a business owner. And you have a lot more you can talk about in your personal brand that really doesn't make sense in maybe a law firm brand. So, if your hobbies are, Give me some of your hobbies.
Like hiking.
Hiking.
Karaoke.
How do you put that into like a law firm brand? It's a little weird, but it makes her really human if everyone says, oh, Baleen has a personal brand and she does family law and she loves hiking and she loves her dog and she loves travel, and people get really attached to that story. And so I would encourage you all to, if there's anything you learned today, you know, put energy into your personal brand. You can collab post it with your business, but understand that no matter what you do or where you go, my personal brand is now coming with me through the multiple law firms plus the consulting business. Your personal brand never dies. So I would encourage you to build that and make sure you work with somebody. I mean, I went to workshops to learn how to build a brand. That's an actual skill set. There's courses you can take. You know, take a day, sit down and think about, what does your brand represent? Why do you guys represent people in family law cases? What about that gets you excited? You need to share that message.
Karina, do you have anything to add?
You know, just as she was speaking, as Jennifer was speaking, what came to mind is about 5 years ago, my personal Facebook became like 80% of my clients were following me because they were curious.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, I post, they want to know about you. So I give them a little bit, but I'm always like throwing business stuff in there. I mean, this is my baby, but 100%, I was like, what's happening? That's what LinkedIn is for. Why do they want to be friends with me on Facebook? But, you know, you build that brand, you build that value. And I mean, I'm not trying to like brag, but everywhere I go, people trust me. I have all their salespeople. I get work immediately. And I'm like, why do I get work so fast? You know, I mean, it's a blessing, but it's also, you know, that my personal brand connected with my company brand that has, you know, been combined. And it's just, I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. So definitely what Jennifer said is on point.
You know, promoting yourself, promoting your business, running the business, being a lawyer, and Jen, I think you had said this earlier too, burnout is the first thing that I'm personally worried about doing myself in my own business. So I'd love to hear everyone's perspective. Baleen, I'm going to start with you. From your perspective inside of your growing firm, and given, you know, what you've told us about everyone picking up the phone when it rings at first and what that looks like, what boundaries or systems have helped you and your firm prevent burnout, especially as your client volume has increased?
Well, as someone who does divorce, as someone else does family law, there's a short timeline, right? You were taking on secondary traumas every day. People are going through one of the darkest seasons of their life when they talk to you. I'm sure your business was the same. So there's a very high amount of emotional intake you're getting. Certain boundaries we have at our firm is we don't give out personal cell phone numbers. I do not send emails after a certain time. I'm sending emails at 2 a.m. The client is getting it at 9:30, right? I'm going to send an email. You work whenever it fits your life and your firm structure, but you have to set client expectations, and that is going to make your life easier. Even if you're stressed about a hearing, whatever your prep is, they get me at this time. In this window. Right now I have an out of office on. I'm going to answer emails after, but you have to set those expectations to clients. When you start early on, it's hard because you're like, well, I want them to know I'm on it. First I was answering emails in 20 minutes. You're going to get answered tomorrow at 9 a.m. You know, you're going to get a response, but you have to set those expectations. And then also like take a break. Like when I like have a weekend at a certain point, like I delete Outlook from my phone for like at least a certain number of hours, because you have to allow yourself to be off. In our jobs and our careers, you're talking about being a head of household, it is so hard to not be on all the time. I'm in the shower thinking about trial prep. So you have to force yourself to take that step back, or you're going to burn your wick down pretty soon.
Yeah.
I believe that it's our job to teach clients how to interact with a law firm. Many of our clients have never dealt with a law firm before. And so whatever behaviors you start off with, if you're texting them, if you're emailing them in 5 minutes, you're now setting an expectation that that's how we interact with a law firm. When you go to your doctor's office, do you get his cell phone? Do you get his immediate answer every hour when you email the doctor's office? Like, we need to raise our standards and elevate ourselves and teach people. And that might include, originally I had an email that would go out to new clients, and it's like, hey, this is how you're going to expect to communicate with our firm. You need to design that in a sustainable way. And you say, you know, I remember I wrote an email that had a defined emergency. This is what the law firm defines as an emergency. Maybe it's that you can't go to court. You know, maybe there are defined emergencies, and in those cases, you can basically have a channel for them to do 911. But you need to teach people what is not an emergency. Because if you allow people to railroad you, I promise they will railroad you and they will drag you up and down and all over, and you will be exhausted and burned out. So this is really about how do you allow people to engage with your business. And you have to decide and set standards. And I promise you, this is like a major issue that I see across all the firms that I'm coaching. And you can start to also set, like, everybody in here should have new client kind of orientation information and like information about how often you're going to, get an email about the stage of your case. There's a ton of different stage emails that I'd built out over the years that basically explain to people where their case is going. People want to know what stage am I in? Where am I going? And so you say, hey, you're in stage 1. This is what happens in stage 1, and it's going to take about this much time. We live in an instant gratification world, and people are ordering something on Amazon and it's being delivered in 2 hours. So that is the mindset we're dealing with. And you have to really work to get people to understand that is not the way the legal system works. You may not get an update from me for 2 weeks because there is no update. And there is some clients that we had to send an email that says, there's no update, and that they need that. And that's okay, because this is something really hard they're going through. But the reality is you set the tone for how your firm is interacted with. And, if a client is also interacting with your associate or your team members in a really dysfunctional way, you also have to rein that in.
Yeah.
So to avoid burnout, I try to be thankful for the small things. Developing a new flyer, a new business card, updating our website. We all have those moments. I'm like, oh, I work so hard. Why am I doing this for? So, when I go on vacation, like for instance, I was able to use first class upgrades for my kids. And I'm like, you know what? It's the small things. And I'm thankful for this. So yeah, last week I was pulling my hair and I was going crazy, but I can do these things for my children, So just remaining thankful for the small things, just a business card, any new idea that you have, like developing new swag. Please stop by my table, by the way, to get some swag. Like, oh wow, this came out really cool. I really like it. Just the small things. Remain thankful for that. Besides going on your walks or whatever you want to do for yourself, don't feel bad. Like as a mother too, you feel guilty. I'm like, oh, I should be, home with the kids instead of, going to get a massage or meeting my girlfriend for dinner. So just small things like that.
Thank you. The opposite of burnout is hopefully health, right? Healthy growth, and not just in revenue, but in sustainability too. So if you're running more of a boutique operation, someone in the last session said, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, being solo doesn't mean alone. Right? And whether that means your community of other attorneys going through the same thing, whether it means having a business coach, whether it means having an associate or a virtual assistant, how do business owners in this stage approach healthy growth for a sustainable practice beyond just the revenue? Jen, I'm going to start with you.
So I have like a kind of crazy mindset on this just because I truly live this way.
Yeah.
I had my own firm. I was a solo. I honestly want to tell you, I think it's easier to run a larger firm. I think it's harder to run a solo firm. And I send this message to you that if one person in the room hears it, that you don't buy the idea that it's easier to run a small firm. Oh, it's a small firm. It's lean. Yeah, but there's no one there to help you. And you are literally having to do everything. The challenge in a small firm is that, you really can't leverage the talents of anyone else other than your own. And so, when you talk about how do you, grow sustainably, a sustainable business is a business that does not fully rely on you, because then you don't ever get to take a vacation. You don't ever get any time off. You can't, have a life. And so for me, when I thought about sustainability, that was the entire reason I scaled my firm, so that I could have a life and that I could have some freedom. And so, your first associate, that allows you to step away. I'm sure Christy can leave and go on a 2-week vacation and the place isn't on fire. And you really have to think about different types of freedom. There's the freedom of time, there's a freedom of peace of mind, and there's like the freedom of money. And those are really different things. I know some solos that make a lot of money, but they have no freedom of peace of mind at all. And so you need to think about, what am I sustainably trying to build? And for me, a sustainable company is one that has several employees, that gives you the quality of life that you truly desire and allows you to make the money you truly desire.
So that was great. To me, it's when the clients are happy, when employees are happy, that's sustainable growth. I do remember one time my team was like, wait, you got to stop marketing. We can't keep up. I'm like, what, are you crazy? That's the goal. But you know what? I kind of did slow down a little bit, and I'm like, I have to hire more people. So that's what I did. But when clients are happy, when, you're getting good feedback from other people, your peers, your other attorneys that are referring your work, that means that you're growing sustainably. And like she said, workload distribution, making sure that everybody knows their role and that things are getting done.
And one of the biggest challenges is when you hire people is like the worst number in any department is 1. Mm-hmm. So having 1 paralegal is the worst number. You will come to find out, because let's say they quit, their husband gets a job transferred to Kansas, or whatever happens, you're literally back to square one, right? Who has been in that boat? Now, if you had 2 paralegals, you could buy yourself some time, And so, my life was a fire drill when I had one person in any department, whether it been my receptionist, my intake, my paralegal, an associate attorney. I remember one day I came in, associate attorney quit, and I was like, oh shit, what am I going to, I have business for 2 attorneys, So understanding that your life will be a fire drill if you have very minimal support, that's a decision you're making, or you're deciding to scale up.
Just a note for me, from my perspective, is don't just gatekeep knowledge. Don't just gatekeep a certain level of understanding. If I can teach a paralegal how to do a certain thing or to draft an email response that I edit, do that. It will save you the time and the stress later. Christy can't go on vacation for 2 weeks, and she'll get maybe a text about one client. Whereas if I wasn't there, or our admin wasn't great at intake and saying, oh, she's here, let me schedule you as soon as she gets back, then she's answering those calls in Cabo and can't spend that time with her children. So you do need to make sure that you have written systems to then be able to delegate. You handle these clients. Take something really hard, I think, for especially a family lawyer. Half of our calls feel like we're talking to somebody else's friend about a breakup, right? It's hard to take notes about that, but you need to, so then when you do go on vacation, I can be like, oh, well, these are the last 10 points they talked about. Let me pick up on this piece of advice, as opposed to playing catch up. So be really good about your records, and don't just keep the knowledge to yourself. If you keep it all to yourself, you do it all yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to create a system to spread that so it's easily downloaded to the rest of your team.
Karina, I want to talk a little bit about how virtual assistants in particular can help add to the sustainability of a growing firm. What, if anything, do you prepare your virtual assistants to in that effect? And do you have any other comments about engaging with hires virtually in particular?
Well, so for my first, I was the guinea pig for the company. The virtual assistant company started because of Horizon Legal started hiring. I actually flew to meet my first virtual assistant. I wanted to train her. You don't have to now with Zoom and all that stuff, but knowledge is power. Share the knowledge. Yeah. Everything that tell them, why, don't be scared to share that knowledge. They're not going to take your business away. You are your business, But clear expectations of what you expect from the beginning. If it's your first and your only virtual assistant, tell them, listen, you're going to wear many hats, but encourage them. This is going to pay off. And when we get more cases, you're going to, people like money, or maybe it's time off. People are different, but for the most part, I find that money motivates people. So we're really good about giving bonuses, sharing it. That has been one of the secret sauces to our success, is that, we give bonuses, mid-year bonuses. If we give incentives, hey, you know what? Here's a $50 gift card, because we had a great month or whatever. It's small. It doesn't have to be big. The one thing with virtual assistants that it freed up a lot of cash for us to grow. Instead of paying someone $50,000, $60,000 a year, I'm able to now, I was able to sponsor, I remember, my first national conference in Vegas. And so I saw the growth so fast because of, your cash. It's being freed up, So, but clear expectations, written expectations, spend the time training them. I think in the first panel, someone said, they don't read minds. They don't know everything you want. So be clear about what you like, what you don't like, what your pet peeves are. Because they're, like, I think on the first panel, they're like, yeah, I thought they knew everything I wanted. And that's not the case. Just because they know PI or workers' comp or family law doesn't mean they know how you want to do it. So spend the time training them, because that will pay off. And then keep them motivated, because just like another employee in your office, they're humans too. They have needs. So tell them there's going to be rewards. Like, we're starting out. Yeah, like I tell them, hey, when I first hired my first BA, I'm like, you're on the first floor, so that's going to pay off. And I cried the other day like crazy, because my first hire moved to Switzerland, and they make way more money in Switzerland. And she said, I would choose Horizon 1,000,000 times again. And that because, all the time people are so hard on us as business leaders. Oh, you're this, you're that, you're blah, 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 you're too demanding. But I'm like, and I tell my people, when you leave this company, you're going to be a better professional than when you walked in. So yes, I demand the best out of you, but if you ever leave here, you're going to be better, and you're going to thank me for that. So just, again, but expectations.
Yeah. Anything to add?
So good. Really, so good.
Well, let's talk about the business development part of that. I think that's a nice segue into kind of how to support meaningful growth in your business and the marketing that comes with that brand development, Jen, that you were talking about. Baleen, I'm going to start with you. How do associates or early hires meaningfully support the growth of their firm while also building their own professional identity? And do you have any advice for those of us who are about to maybe do our first hire?
So I think the big thing for anyone who's like younger, is supporting a small firm or going kind of on their own, you are your brand. Like Jen said, when I first started, like past the bar, I was like, hi, I'm Christy the Associate. Hi, I'm Christy the Associate. Hi, I'm Baleen Reed and I do family law. Like, you have to start with presenting yourself and be firm, be secure. I have an intro spiel, I'm Baleen, I do divorce and all of its friends, right? I say that at every luncheon I go to, but that's a part of my brand now. It's a part of my presentation. If they forget everything about me, they met a girl in a bright dress that does divorce, right? That's what they're gonna remember. So that is, you have to promote yourself. Sometimes just showing up is the end of it, right? Go to every luncheon, shake the hands, ask a few people to go out to lunch. A big part of brand development, I think now, especially for scaling, is you need to have online presence. You need to make the videos, you need to do a LinkedIn post. It's annoying, right? You don't want to do it. You don't want to be bragging about yourself all the time. But people need to know you. I have gotten clients who are like, oh, well, 10 people saw your LinkedIn video the other day. So that's how you get it. Like, that's how you get the business to come in. You need to have, my first year, someone told me, like, you need to be aggressively annoying with your marketing. Like, it feels like a lot for you to do it, but there are a lot of attorneys. There are a lot of people in the world that need a divorce in Georgia. So you need to have that pervasive presence, and you can promote yourself and a business at the same time. I'm not doing anything to diminish, my boss, Christy, right? I say glowingly things about her all the time, but I also need to promote myself. When people call the firm, I want them to say, I was referred to Baleen, and not as referring to Barnhart Family Law. So you can do both at the same time.
Yeah, Jen?
Yeah, so in 2020, I decided to go on social media in a big way, and I decided to post a video every single day for 365 days, which was a big undertaking, but I thought, Gary Vee kept saying, like, you're not posting enough. So I just thought, okay, at least I'll do it every single day. And that was a big challenge, but I have for the last probably 5 to 6 years posted over 400 videos a year. Some 2 in a day, maybe we'll skip a day, but then I'll do more on another day. And that really built my brand. And I wanted to share with you, it built my brand so much that a California law firm came and bought my firm. So you have no idea what a brand really can do. If you think about the Kardashians, think about the brand they built around their name. They can basically put their name on anything and people will buy because it's a brand. And so when you're talking about business development, you have to be obsessive about putting your message out there. I promise you, if you call and ask 5 of your neighbors, truly, candidly, 5 people in your circle, like, what exactly do I do? They don't know. Think about, like, your neighbor that's a doctor. You don't really know what type of doctor they are. Like, they're kind of a doctor. Like, people are so in their own world, and we're so inundated and distracted by everything that's going on. I promise you, people don't know what you exactly do and what would be a good referral for you. So if you just start there and you post on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you want to go. I do all of them, but I think LinkedIn is really good. I think Facebook is really good. I think Instagram's really good. And put valuable content out. Put content about what is the thing you do and talk about things that resonate with people and get people engaged in your brand. If you can do that consistently, you will make an impact. If in the beginning you can only do 3 videos a week, I would rather you do 3 videos a week rather than post for 5 days than off for 20. Because people need to, they like consistency. A brand needs to be consistent. So commit to whatever you can commit to and then scale it from there. I also think a newsletter is one of my number one tips. I still have a newsletter. I have 15,000 people on my list. I've collected that over the years. Newsletters are ways to keep in touch with people that you've previously represented that you no longer have a connection with. Think about all the clients that you're not going to really talk to them once their case closes. And you need to have a way to sustainably interact with those people and to build your business list as you grow. That is something you can do with MailChimp, any basic program, and you send a monthly newsletter. Now, I will just encourage you to not create a boring lawyer newsletter. Please do something fun and interesting. People are voyeuristic. They want to see pictures of you walking your dog out and about, at a networking event, at this event. Post something that makes you a human in that newsletter. They know you're a lawyer because you do something small about that, but do not make the newsletter boring. Make it interesting and make it captivating. And I promise people always, commented over the years about our newsletter as being really engaging. And you can see how many people open it and forward it.
So as far as growth goes, I would say be reliable, be on time so that you can gain people's trust. Push yourself. I remember I had to drive an hour to an event. I had a migraine. It was raining. I didn't want to go. I landed a multi-million-dollar client by just showing up at that event. It wasn't instant, but it's I was co-hosting an event with somebody else, and I remember I don't want to go. I have a headache. Take time, Advil, and drive down there. And so she introduced me to her boss, and then her boss introduced me to and so you just don't know when that one client's gonna come in. I was talking to my daughter the other day because she has a friend that's going to law school, and 2 times she cancels the plans last minute. I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't even send Isa, oops, I shouldn't have said her name, a case just because she's not reliable. So if you say you're going to show up to a networking event, be there, show up, be a woman or man of your word, The other thing is think outside the box. It doesn't have to be a lawyer event all the time. You could go to, a Hispanic charity event or volunteer. Volunteering, you can get work too. So just think outside the box. A lot of people are stuck, this is how I'm going to do it. And also, I've read this many times, is if you're doing the same thing all the time, you're going to get the same results. So if you're oh my gosh, I've been doing this, going to this, happy hours or networking event, and I don't get anything, go do something different, You just don't know. I have a client and a friend who she's doing insurance stuff now for property damage and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you need to connect with people that fix houses, because I'm I don't really know how to refer you work or help you out, but think outside the box is really what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, that goes into a really good question that kind of just piggybacks right off is about intentional growth strategies, right? Harnessing the power of social media is one thing. What about community presence? Karina, you just said it right. If you're in the construction business and you're doing all this law, do you know the construction firms in your town? Do you know who owns those firms? Do you know the workers of those firms? What role has community presence, networking, and referrals? What role have they played in your intentional growth strategy? Jen, you want to start?
Yeah, so what comes to mind for me when you bring that up is that everybody should have a business plan. We hosted a business plan workshop in January. Boomy was there. Basically, we had everyone stand up and kind of build out what their plan for the year is. And part of your business plan is a marketing plan. So you should have a strategic marketing plan that supports your growth goals. How much money do you want to generate this year? And how many leads or clients would it take to get there? And it's literally a math equation. So building out a business plan, you need to then develop multiple channels of marketing. As a solo most people start their business on referrals. I will just say that is the baseline. But ultimately, you're going to try to build your business on other things like, networking and, a newsletter, digital media, billboards, whatever things you want to, incorporate in there. But you have to build a plan, and then the whole year is executing that plan. And why I say this, because it may include community events. We had a scholarship and a backpack project and things like that. But realistically, you can't just arbitrarily do random stuff. I want you to commit to things and to actually do them in an intentional way. I think that in a mistake I made early on is I just kind of like doing random stuff and just throwing money all over the place, and it's just chaos. And then at the end of the year, you want to look at your marketing channels, because every single client you sign up, if I went to your business today, I should know where exactly that client came from. You should be tracking client A came from Baleen. Client B came from this networking event. Client C, you need to know where you're getting your business from to be able to build out your plan for next year, because we're just going to take your plan for next year and we're going to scale up what you're already doing well and maybe add in a few new things. But you're not going to be able to do 190 different things. We need to be very focused on what things drive the business, what brings in, new business, which you should have that data. If you don't have that data, please today go write down where every single one of your clients ever came from. You might be surprised to realize oh my gosh, Baleen sends me 20% of my business. Maybe you should be taking her out more. Yep. This is math and simple concepts that you need to apply to how to scale your business, and don't overcommit to 150 things, because you will just be in a blur of, I don't really know what's going to bring in anything new.
Karina?
Yeah, I'm, adding to what she said, keeping a list and thanking whoever sent you that referral. Sometimes I refer something or send someone some way and I don't get it, and I don't care. I don't need anything monetary, but a thank you note or a text goes a long way. So that's why it's so important to keep a list. There's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm good at marketing, but then the client wants to work with me, and if I'm trying to scale my business, how do I sell a different attorney when they really are coming to me?
So the question was, this lovely attorney is very good at marketing, but then she sells so well that they want her.
Well, I don't mean to sound so obnoxious.
No, I'm complimenting you. No.
I'm trying to fill two other lawyers' plates, only I'm having trouble selling them.
Yeah.
Do you think that Louis Vuitton is making Louis Vuittons right now? But you love the brand, right? But it's being executed by other people. We need the Elaine brand, and that is being served to other people. This is how a lot of professional businesses have scaled. Think of Johnny Cochran, right? You don't always get Johnny Cochran. You can get Johnny Cochran for a price, right, when he was there. But he has the Johnny Cochran way that the law firm is executing, and that is translated down to all the people that work there. And you have to incorporate that in the way that you sell the brand. Mm-hmm. You have developed an expertise, and you have a vision and a meticulous way that you do things, but it's being executed also by other people.
So Jen, what would you say to someone who contacts you to take their case, but you're not going to take it? There's 10 lawyers that could take it.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to make the assumption that they want me. I'm going to say, thank you for calling Atlanta Personal Injury Law Group. That was my firm's name. This is how we operate. And until they bring up, oh, I only want you, I don't even raise that as an issue. It's the presumptive close. I'm assuming that they're going to follow my lead as to however I want to run my law firm, right? We make the assumption, they need me. Well, let's just see if they even said that, right? Do you run into that? They don't always say, I need Christy.
No, they don't. And something I can add is just incorporate your associates, right? People aren't going to know that you have other workers if you don't tell them you have other workers. At your consults, your initial calls, we have a team. We work together. They will consult me before mediation or on big stuff. When people are referred directly to Christy, then it's we try to accommodate that. But I had a hearing last week with a client that was very happy that was referred to her that I did. So it just doesn't have to be that, and clients don't know what they don't know.
You're teaching them. So I want you to like think of you're elevated up here and you need to say like, okay, until they bring that as an issue, they may bring that as an issue. Say, look, I work with a specific number of one-on-one clients yearly. I have a higher rate. I also have Baleen, who's my associate. She has all these skills. She's really good at, let's just say, whatever, litigation. She does everything the Elaine way, and this is how we handle it. So we kind of give people options, but I never raise it as an issue unless they directly, and you have to really control that or it can get out of control.
Yeah, just elevate I would say elevate your associates with you. They're just as good, or like they have the same skill set, like your brand, the Elaine
Different
brand.
people, like we used to say, like we have one person that's an expert on slip and fall cases. That's what they're doing all day. They really are the go-to in our firm for that, and you kind of build little mini areas of expertise in the firm. But also, like realistically, I do think this is more of a mindset issue with, are you talking about somebody that's like a friend that called you and said, I want you to do my case?
No, it's more like they're the friend of a client who I work with, but I'm not taking on this new client, so I'm selling my partners.
Yeah, you just say, I oversee the entire firm. This is my firm, and it's run on every principle that I've developed over the last 25 years. And I have several associates who help me with this work. It's very simple. And that is literally the freedom that most people in this room really need, because, you can end up just grinding it out where you have zero time because every single client wants you. And you have to get in front of that earlier on. And I would encourage you guys to start saying that, like even like before. Like I remember, like I always tried to make my firm bigger than it was. It's like, yes, like I never really let people know, like, like you need to start selling the business from day one. Like you don't want to dig yourself into a hole where you're just selling yourself.
I have a funny story about that. It's so when we started out, it was just the three of us, and I created an email address, billing@horizonls.com, and I remember my sister would make fun of me, ha ha ha, but I'm the billing department, and I'm like, it doesn't matter, we're gonna have a billing department one day. So like Jennifer said, just making yourself bigger than what it actually is.
Yes, we have a question in the back. Sure.
Trust translates.
Yes.
So, like, if somebody's coming to you because you're getting a referral, trust translates to you. I think that you can translate the trust to another person.
Right, I agree.
And because that person trusts you, they now are trusting that person. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that trust can translate.
Yeah. For those of us online who did not hear, the comment was that trust translates, right? So you pick up the phone, you're giving your trust to somebody, that trust can then be translated to another person in the firm to do that same level of expertise and work.
Just like also think about, like, for example, orthodontist, right? I have an orthodontist that I've been going to for my kids for all these years. He has a couple associates that work there. I'm comfortable with the practice. I'm bought into the practice. If those associates work on my kids, I don't freak out,
There's a question.
Please.
Quick question. How much would you think is a good amount to save up before your first hire? Because I guess one of the issues, part of the ups and downs of being a solo in terms of revenue. Yes, you have a sufficient amount of revenue, but I just want to know, is there a right amount to have saved up just to make sure that your practice doesn't go underwater because you're taking on somebody else?
The question was, how much should we be saving before you do that first hire?
That's my favorite question. I got really excited that you asked this question. Okay, so do you currently, as the owner of the firm, have enough work that you're pretty much at full capacity?
Yes.
So you're now getting to a point where probably you're going to not be able to do more networking because you're fully doing all of this work, right? So realistically, we do not need to save an entire year's salary to hire an associate. Okay, so do you have a ballpark range for how much like an associate would cost you?
I'm thinking they're 80 to 100, right?
Okay, so let's just say, can somebody do the math of what is, let's just do 100,000 divided by 12. It's about 87. It's like 8,300. Okay, what's 8,300 times 2? Okay, let's scale it up times 1.14 to include taxes. So let's just say it's $9,000, $10,000, right? So if we have the associate for 60 days and they're completely horrible, how much does it cost us?
The 10,000 a month.
$20,000. If we have them for 90 days, should they or should they not be making us money? So how much of a risk is this gamble, really? At most 30 grand.
Because basically you can get rid of them if they're not working.
If they
That's what
don't
you're
make
trying
you
to
any money and they're not producing more revenue, which is the point of hiring an employee. Let's just hear this. You want to hire an employee to make more money, not so you can take care of them,
say. Yep.
right? So if in 90 days they're making you no money, pretty much the gamble on this is about 30 grand, okay? And most likely they're going to make you money in that period if you know how to manage and lead them, right? And you have all of this business, because immediately once you hire them, I'm going to start giving them some cases off your docket, and I'm going to free you up to go start generating more business. So there's this kind of misnomer where people think, I've got to save 100 grand before. Why? So you can pay somebody for a year, and then at the end of that year, you're going to see whether they made you any money? No. We don't need to save up mass volumes of money to make our first hire. Some people you're going to hire, and in 30 days, it's going to be like, they're not staying here. They got to go. And I think this is one of the most limiting things I see most women prevent themselves from hiring, is because of this fear. Yes?
I was curious when you talk about the other side of that. So I find as people hire, then they're afraid to fire or let someone go. So maybe you can talk through like what the process of letting someone go when you show that they're not working.
We're going to answer that question and then do final thoughts so that we can have time for the last panel. Thank you so much. The question was, what about the other side of that, the letting go part? How can we prepare ourselves? Oh, now I've lost your question. Say, yeah, thank you. How can we prepare ourselves to get to that point too? You know, and I'm quite maternal. Jen's, well, you're not trying to take care of them. That hit right here because that's what I want to do, right? Especially if you bring on younger attorneys that you have some sort of mentorship relationship with. How do we avoid that trap?
I mean, termination with decency. You've got to have a first conversation. You've got to have, a process that you do. Hey, this is a conversation that we're going to have, and we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation, and you say it right off the bat. And this is basically your first warning. And then I like three strikes. And number two, because I like to give more time. Some people are like, you got to go. But sometimes you just got to be like, you got to go, So, and then number two is like, remember, you put them on probation, or we have a different term for it. It's not probation. It's like, to elevate your standards. I forgot the name that we use at the office, but then it's like, hey, here's like the steps. This is what I need you to correct and fix, and you have like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever time you set. And if those things that you discuss were not corrected, you're like, you didn't do this, like you're putting me in a very difficult spot. Then the last one's you're terminated. So it's called having a difficult conversation.
Yeah, guys, going into business means you're going to be having a lot of hard conversations. If you don't have hard conversations, you're going to pay for it in every way. Your profit will be gone. You will be funding a charity. Business is a place where you have to do a lot of personal development to become a great leader. And it's about sitting down with somebody and saying, look, I'm hiring you to give you an opportunity. It's for you to seize that opportunity. If this isn't a good fit for you, I'm not taking it personally. I'm not personally upset about it. Look, maybe it's not a good fit for them. Maybe you hired the wrong person. I bet you're not the expert at hiring at this stage. Give yourself some grace. Everybody you hire is not going to work out, and that's normal. Anybody who tells you otherwise has never run a business. I want you to not be afraid. I want you to let people go when they're not a good fit and it's not working out and you're not making money and they're not happy. and just be really transparent about like the expectations, and then meeting with them and letting them know if they're not meeting their expectations, and then understanding you don't owe anybody anything. 95% of the people that I've ever fired and hired that I had to let go of, I never felt bad when I let them go because they knew that they weren't doing well at the job. This wasn't a surprise. Surprise fires are something terrible, right? It's like the person thinks they're crushing it and you just fire them. That's very rare. Have hard conversations, sit down with them, show them, this is what I need, and you should have KPIs and metrics so that they know if I do these 10 things, I'm winning at my job. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, like, it should be a win-win. The first time you ever have an amazing employee, you will know the experience of what it's like to have an amazing employee. I know I worked in a law firm as a paralegal, and like, I created a lot of value as that paralegal. Think about how you guys all were as employees in other people's businesses. You can find that, but you have to have the bravery and the courage to let people go when they're not a good fit for your organization, because it can ruin the entire company if you have a toxic employee that's not a good fit. Everyone's shaking their head yes on that.
Baleen, anything to add?
The only note I would go back to the other question is, like, make your expertise, your expectations clear. Your first associate doesn't have to make $100,000. Your first associate doesn't have to have benefits. You can get benefits through the bar. So don't be so stringent and I need to pay them what this big developed firm pays them. I have a very different creative structure, like the way that I'm paid, and that is great for me. It's based on bonuses and originations. So don't put yourself in a box of what payment needs to be. It makes the fear of saving less scary, and it makes me and Christy's relationship much better because she's not stressed about I have to meet this super high salary every month, and I'm not stressed about when it's Christmas and people don't want to get divorced, I have to meet this same billable number. So there's so much flexibility in being a business owner and being an associate. Make the expectations clear and set them to a place where you're both comfortable. Don't create a setup for failure, because then you're both going to have a lot of difficult, hard conversations.
Thank you. We have unfortunately run out of time, so very last thoughts to give our audience. Karina, I'll start with you and we'll go down the panel.
I would say, push yourself. Don't give up. Keep going. There's days are going to be hard. There's days are going to be easier. But in the end, it's been worth it for me. I wouldn't have it any other way. I asked my kids, because I did miss out on a lot of, sporting events and school stuff. If they would have changed their mom. And their answer is no. They're like, they look up to me. They're proud of me. And they're both, my daughter's graduating FSU now, my son's going into Kentucky University. They're go-getters, they're ambitious, they're hungry, and I have set a great, not to, brag about myself, but I think I've set a great model for my kids to, keep going and go get it,
I love that. I would say that you should have a vision for who you want to be in 3 years, and you should commit to that vision and start, moving in the direction. Don't just arbitrarily run a business. Like, really commit to who you want to be and become the person that you need to be to run that organization and to have the lifestyle you want and the freedom you want personally, professionally, and financially, and just never back down.
This is advice I give to like every new person at anything, is do it scared. The most amazing, wonderful, fulfilling things in life happen on the other side of fear. Who says an associate can't bring in $200,000 of revenue? Who says that you can't start a firm your second year or the day after you leave school? Don't let fear be the reason that you are not the next best firm in the state of Georgia, in the country, because that shouldn't be your difference.
Thank you guys so much. Can we have a round of applause for our wonderful panelists? Thank you. So appreciate everybody's time. We're going to move right into the next panel, which is the final life stage of a solo practice, the transition out. Thank you, ladies, so much.